Welcome back. Joe Biden seems to be on the verge of announcing his candidacy for president, and he's leading virtually every poll of the Democratic field. But there are red flags for his candidacy nearly everywhere you look. Two women now have publicly accused Biden of making them feel uncomfortable with the physical conduct that he had around them, which Biden says was never his intention. Democrats both in and out of the presidential race seem to agree that Biden's behavior is not disqualifying. But it is a reminder of Biden's vulnerabilities as a candidate. A 76-year-old white male facing public scrutiny over inappropriate behavior with women isn't what you'd expect in a Democratic frontrunner. Not in this Democratic Party in this 21st century. Which raises a major question for Biden. Can he win? Is he 21st century enough for today's Democratic Party? Joining me now are two editorial writers who have two different takes on Biden and his appropriateness with women over the years. And they've been debating this subject for some time. So we thought, let's make them debate it in public. Ruth Marcus, deputy editorial page editor at The Washington Post and also an MSNBC contributor. And Molly Roberts. She is an editorial writer at The Washington Post. Her most recent editorial is titled, "It Doesn't Matter What Joe Biden Meant to Do." Well, Ruth and Molly, I am here to truly moderate. I want to moderate. I want to moderate it in this respect. Ruth, you are of a more forgiving nature of Biden's conduct. Me. Make your case.
Look, I am forgiving in the sense that I think many people who have looked at this situation with Vice President Biden have been forgiving, which is he is of a different generation. And Molly's headline notwithstanding, it actually does matter what your intention is. One of my favorite quotes is from Justice Holmes. I'm going to show off a little bit. And he said, even a dog knows the difference between being tripped over and being kicked. And so when somebody sexually harasses someone in a way that intends to demean them and has or intends to use their power over them, that is different than Joe Biden behaving in a way that he should not behave and that makes people feel uncomfortable. He shouldn't do that. Times have changed. But I think where you started is where I come out. This is not fatal for Vice President Biden, but it is symptomatic of a challenge that he's going to have as he enters this race.
Molly, talk about the specific. Why should it matter?
So I don't have any Holmes quotes, unfortunately.
Got you there.
I think that it does matter somewhat what Joe Biden meant to do. Certainly, if Joe Biden had been trying to display his power over these women, if this had been sexual, and even the most recent accuser says that, at least from her point of view, him rubbing noses with her
was a little weird, granted.
Was not sexual. I think that makes a difference, but I think that focusing on intention, which is what Biden did in his apology, is part of the problem here, because it is once again putting the man and what the man feels and what the man believes at the center of the conversation, rather than saying, hey, how did this make women feel? Evidently, it didn't make Stephanie Carter feel so bad, but it did make Lucy Flores feel bad.
You hear this argument that it's generational. When you hear generational, what do you hear when you hear that?
I hear that my mom and I would probably disagree on it, but I think it's interesting. I think that the generational divide is kind of what Ruth is speaking to with the challenge that Biden faces, because right now when we talk about Joe Biden, we're not just talking about his different attitude on this issue. We're talking about his different attitude on many issues, and even when that attitude has evolved, he has baggage from the past. So whether it is sexual harassment, where his attitude certainly has evolved, or at least we see him acting far more progressive now than he did when he was chairing the Anita Hill hearings, we also have, say, the busing issue. So I think generally there's sort of a feeling that here's this 76-year-old man, and is that what we want for a country moving forward?
Well, and I think that that's what this is really about. This isn't about, is he too touchy? This is about, is he
the man for the moment?
Is he the man for the moment, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what this is the debate that makes it, that is just emblematic of the larger conversation?
Well, and this is a particularly unforgiving moment. And I think we are watching once again. I sat there at the Anita Hill hearings and I watched the public mood shift about what was acceptable and what our understanding was of sexual harassment. And Vice President Biden and the rest of us are sitting here right now and watching the public mood shift about what is acceptable and not acceptable for men to do as they deal with women and as they are talking to and touching women, which, you know what? They shouldn't do. People shouldn't touch people in professional settings.
You would think, like, I know, that's sort of a joke I always say, like, the rules aren't hard.
Yeah.
Ask before you touch.
Don't sniff her
it's
hair.
the same. It's the same rule that we gave our preschool kids. Let me play Nancy Pelosi today. She had interesting advice on this.
I'm a member of the Straight Arm Club. I mean, I'm not straight armor and all of this. Just pretend you have a cold and I have a cold. But what I think that it's important for the vice president and others to understand is it isn't what you intended, it's how it was received. He's an affectionate person to children, to senior citizens, to everyone. That's just the way he is, but that's just not the way. Join the Straight Arm Club with me, if you will.
Molly, do you worry that with Biden's nomination, does it make what Trump says he does in the Access Hollywood tape, does it almost trivialize it more, or does it not? I mean, I think this is the struggle some Democrats are going, you're giving Joe Biden a hard time. He didn't do what Trump says he does.
Absolutely. I don't think that most of Biden's critics are trying to establish an equivalency here.
Right.
I'm certainly not. I think as long as everybody is very clear that this is not what Donald Trump did, this is not what Harvey Weinstein did, this is not even what Al Franken is accused of having done. I think that as long as people are clear about that and don't say that this is the same thing, it is still useful to discuss how it's important how a woman feels even when the man had those better intentions.
There's an interesting little stat about Joe Biden, Ruth. The last 4 presidents were all born after Joe Biden. The last 4 presidents, Clinton, Bush, Obama, and Trump, all born after 1945. He was 1941. I feel like we are just that's what this ends up taking us back to. So how does he fix this? How does he become the man of the moment? Or is this something that he may not have control over?
Well, I don't think I've been looking for a way to have control over age, and I haven't discovered it yet. And he's a young 76,
he is.
and
I'll give him that.
And he has changed. He has learned, but he is still struggling. I think Molly used the word baggage, and that's completely true. There is baggage on criminal justice issues, and it's a different time.
He dragged President Obama to same-sex marriage. It was Joe Biden that dragged, and frankly, we all did the backstory on this.
The
president was not ready. The president was not ready to do this yet. It was Joe Biden that dragged him there. Does that at all outweigh the other stuff, right? Or in some form? I don't know. Does that matter?
Well,
the fact that he shows evolution.
Right, and maybe that answers your question, how can he be the man of the moment? If he were pushing policies right now that were more progressive than where the Democratic Party is, or were even on the more progressive end of where the Democratic Party is, that would be one thing. That's not so far what I think he's doing.
And this actually leads to the other issue, which is some think that actually what makes Biden most electable about Trump is that he has these quirks.
Well, he has quirks. He's human, but also the flip side of baggage is experience. Okay, he comes to the table with experience in foreign policy, with experience in domestic policy, with an understanding of how a White House works that is different than any of the other Democratic candidates in the field. So it's a balance there. It may not be the balance that the Democratic Party is looking for right now.
Well, the
they want new and shiny.
The biggest problem they have is their front runner is not yet announced, and he's already dealing with all of this. That is a challenge that the party faces. Ruth Marcus and Molly Roberts, I hope you're still employed.
I don't know about me, but Molly is.
Excellent. Excellent. The future is now. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.